After reviewing the last video, I noticed I had this little flap of tape just sitting there the whole video. Sorry about that. And I noticed the audio was not that great and the focus is not that great. So I've got to get accustomed to this new camera. The new camera erases files just fine. My old camera, I'm saying camera when I should say phone, and I should say phone when I should say camera. Anyway, my old phone had a bunch of trouble with the erasing part because it would lock up the phone for like 5 minutes while it was deleting. This one will delete right away. Oh yeah. I don't know if that's good or bad. Anyway, I think we got the Wi-Fi problem solved for the next few days anyway. Uploading the 1.5-hour videos isn't going to be a big deal. Okay, so I'm just kind of delaying what I'm going to do because I don't know what I'm going to do next. I could pressure flake these things. These two bifaces are ready for pressure flaking, right? Ready for pressure flaking. These two bifaces, but I don't like pressure flaking, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break into this piece. It's for my friend Don Tower. Make a video. Okay, I'll make a video, and I'll try to do it talking slowly, talking a little bit louder instead of mumbling to myself like I did toward the end of the last video. I was kind of mumbling to myself and to whoever was listening. I have spies around here. Yep, I flattened that out and also got rid of the ASMR people with the sound of that sander. Anyway, while I was waiting for the last video to upload, I was eating dinner and watching videos on YouTube. And I saw a guy using a bopper. I was watching some bopper Flintknapping or bopper napping. And I was thinking, before I watched the video, I was thinking, should I get some boppers? Should I make some boppers? Should I buy some? What should I do? Because I got friends that'll give me boppers. I can buy some boppers, or I can make some, or all three. If you don't know what boppers are, they have like copper tops, sometimes filled with lead, with a wooden or plastic handle. Sometimes they're not filled with anything. They're just light boppers. But most boppers are heavy boppers. Lead filled or something in there to make them heavy. And they're very, very popular. But the guy I was watching, I'm not going to name names, was like pop, 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 all the way around, and he was removing a ton of material from a really nice piece of material. And I couldn't watch it. No. I couldn't watch the material being massacred like that. It was just like watching a machine gun go after a fish in a barrel, right? Just chop, chop, pop, 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 all the way around. So he was doing the pad thing, pop, 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 all the way around the whole thing, and it got kind of small compared to how it was, and knocking off thinning flakes and all that. And I couldn't watch it. I said, I don't know. If I started doing bopper stuff, I don't even know if I can review my own videos. If I'm going to be removing that much stuff. Of course, I would use the bopper in a way that most people wouldn't be using it. Yeah. So I guess it wouldn't be too bad. How would I use the boppers in ways that other people don't use it? I'd be using it to make little flakes. That's all I would normally use it for. Little bitty flakes without any effort. Yeah, pretty much. I wouldn't be using it for thinning flakes. I like using this for thinning flakes. Oh yeah, the flat, not the rounded boppers. So what is this material, you might ask? It is a piece of tabular chert from our favorite state. Yep. Given to me as a gift. So that I would give you the gift of showing how to nap it on video. Yeah, supposedly. I have a feeling it's not going to stay this size. And I'm not going to get much further than the bopper guys. That's my fear. Let's see. 6 3/4, almost 7 by 5 inches. So I could get like a 7 by 4 inch, right? 7 by 4 inch point out of it. That was good. I'm not that good, so I'm only going to get 500 views, right? That's it. Well, we'll see. But yeah, usually I have to take off some of the tip, some of the base. Sometimes it'll snap in half. I'm just going to, whatever happens, happens. I'm just going to show whatever happens. And I'd say 1 out of 4 of these ends up in 2 pieces. On average. Sometimes I have streaks where nothing breaks. Sometimes I have streaks where almost everything breaks. Sometimes 1 out of 4, that's my usual. But sometimes 3 out of 4 will break. And it has a lot to do with the material itself. At this stage of my napping, with my level of experience, whatever that is, I tend to snap most of these with bad material. Because of the bad material. I take it for granted. I think it's good stuff, and I'm taking chances with it and not being gentle. Am I going to explain every hit? No, because it's very annoying for me to explain everything. And it might be annoying for you. Who knows? It's probably not, right? It's not, because that's why you watch, so you can know how to do this and know why it's being done and how it's done and why it's done. I'm doing it so I can grow my channel. I want my channel to grow. I was recommended by one of my loyal subscribers to post pictures on the community or for the community. Post these community things. It's an option on YouTube. So there I am. I got a brand new tablet, right? And I'm sitting there watching everything on the big screen on the tablet. And he recommends, try the community tab. So I looked at the community tab and I tried to look into it, and it says, I push some buttons, and community uploads not available on this device, or something like that. Not available on this device. And I figured out it was because I'm on a tablet. All right, I was on a tablet at that time. But it took me like, what, 2 hours to figure that one out. After a while, it dawned on me, you know what, I'm not using my phone. So yeah, I tried my phone, and sure enough, I can upload stuff to the community, or for the community, on my phone. Yeah. Like little photographs and stuff of my arrowheads. So I might do that. In fact, I probably will. Because why else would I buy a tablet and buy a phone, a brand new phone and all that? You know, gotta learn. Learn what I can and cannot do on these electronic devices. So anyway, what am I doing? I'm trying to get it to where it's more regular. There's some big old nasties on here. Nasty spots. Yeah. This material is not that easy to nap. It's tabular chert, yes. I thought it was going to be a root beerish looking chert, but it's turning out to be this gray stuff. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thought that it would be gray material? It does look root beerish here on this side. Yeah. So what is my strategy for something like this? What is my thought process? I don't have a normal thought process, apparently. I think about philosophy when I'm doing this many times. Sometimes I'll listen to music. How do I know what to do if I'm not thinking about this? Is it determinism that's making it for me? I'm just sitting back as an observer along for the ride. I have no actual control. Sounds good. But I've been training myself to do this without control, without micromanaging it, so to speak. I've been training myself to do it that way. If I automatically did it that way, I wouldn't need to train myself to do it that way. Yeah. If I was just along for the ride, why would I have to be training myself to let my subconscious do most of the work? If my subconscious was doing the work, I wouldn't need to be worried about it. Now would I? No. I don't know why I worry so much about debunking the determinists, other than the fact that they are a huge part of the interzones now, the internets and interwebs. Yeah, a huge part of discourse. So I got to talk about it, I think. Anyway, I'm just going to continue to reduce this down as best I can. I'm not going to do the pressure flaking yet. I'm going to do a whole series of these direct percussion videos. Get that out of the way. And then see where it goes from there. I gotta make some... I guess I gotta make some boppers. I started off talking about boppers Got to make some boppers so that I can discuss that strategy. I got a feeling the more strategies that I incorporate into my channel, the more viewers I will get. Yeah, if I talk about how to do various different styles, not just my style, but different styles, maybe it would be more interesting. Yep. Just mix it up. Instead of dividing my channels up, just mix it all together on one channel. I wanted to avoid mixing it up, but I don't know. I did go over there and check my other channels, and they're doing pretty good. They're doing just fine. Yeah, that side's pretty easy to nap. So I don't need to be hitting that side too much. But I'm doing it now just because the edge is moved in that direction. I moved the edge in that direction just because it was easy at the time. I'm not using the abrader. And I discussed in my other video that I don't always use the abrader. Sometimes I abrade with the billet because it's expedient. How many other nappers use the word expedient? I don't know. I don't hear it that often. And I think a lot of the old ancient nappers were very expedient. In fact, I think that was the main way to nap, is with expedient methods, but no one talks about it. It seems that no one talks about it. Now, when the guy using the bopper is clipping around the outside and making it much smaller, is that expedient? No, I just think that's a bit gratifying, maybe. I can't see any other reason why you would nap so much around the outside other than the good feeling of removing flakes. It's just the feeling of removing flakes seems to be satisfying. That's the only thing I can think of. Because it's kind of cringy watching him do it. For no apparent reason other than just creating flakes to nap around the outside, just to create flakes. It's the only thing I can think of. Because it's not really helping him develop the habit of maximizing the amount of material. Yeah. I try to maximize what I can use. I try to. It has its risks, yes. So overall, maybe it doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, maybe it doesn't help all that much to take a lot of risks. But when I do have a success, I usually have a success at preserving a lot of the material. Especially with the smaller points. I can make big points as long as they're nice and thick. And if I take a long time with each one. If I take a long time with each one, I can make large, thin points. And if I spend a lot of money on material, time and money, buying and searching for material, yeah, I can make big points. But it's not worth it for me at this time. All right, so a lot of this is going to get super thin. I'm trying to preserve the maximum amount of width and length, but I'm not going to be able to be conservative with this edge because this is a problem. I'm going to have to use this edge to remove a lot of that. I don't want it in the finished piece. So what that means is I'll take back this edge, chip, 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 and then send in flakes to remove that. Yeah. All right. I'll pause and then start up again. Okay, so in this stage, I need to remove this edge here and drive in flakes to remove this trouble spot here. It dips in very far, and with the new camera phone, there is an ability to get it to focus in on a certain spot, but with the Flintknapping, the spots don't stay consistent, so it'll stop doing it, and then I got to resume the zoom, or resume the lock, which is new for this phone. And then as I'm doing this a lot, that zooming function stops working. So not only does it stop working because it changes its shape, it stops working if I manipulate it too much. So I have to pay more attention now to this camera. Moral of the story, I have to pay more attention to this camera phone than my other one. Isn't technology wonderful? Oh yeah. Yeah, so instead of concentrating more on napping, I got to concentrate more on filmography, or whatever it's called. Yeah, hold on. I got to move this thing. So yeah, I got to pay more attention to the device. Yes, yes. Okay. So little by little, I'm going to be whittling this down. Come on. On video. And whatever happens, happens, and I'll offer this for sale in the auction. Yeah. Do I have a bunch of stuff already made? I wish. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. Don't worry about it. What auction are you talking about, dude? I have a history. Right? Just look at my old videos. Not too long ago, I had a little auction. I've been having them every week. Yeah. Those auctions support the channel. Yeah, they do. Support me, support the channel. If you support me, you support the channel. No way around it now. I'm locked into the channel. Yep. Whatever I do seems to be in support of the channel nowadays. Whatever I do, everything I do, almost everything I do. Ooh, that hurt. That's thin right there. Are you able to see? No? Good. Am I talking loud enough? No? Cool. Is that echo bugging you? Yes? Good. Is it weird? Am I out of frame every time I strike? Or every time you lean in to get a closer look, does it unfocus itself? Yes? Good. I like it. It's on purpose. It's what I call controlled. It's controlled. Yep. Yeah. Recently spent time with one of my sons because I had to drive him around and stuff. And he asks me questions that are extremely difficult to answer, as usual. Yeah, it's just part of driving around with your child. They'll ask you questions that are very difficult to answer. In between the wisecracks and stuff. Like what is subjective and what is objective? Objective and subjective. Yeah, I mean, he already knows what that stuff is, but just examples of what is objective and what is subjective. Is there such a thing as objective morality? That's a hard question to answer. It's taken me years to be able to talk about that subject. So what have I come up with? What is everything I know about objective morality? In 5 seconds, go. Yeah. There is such a thing as objective morality. There is. But it's not what's going around on the interzones. Objective morality has to be based entirely on rationality. In fact, I would say, in my humble opinion, that rationality is morality. That way we don't have to discuss what is objective or what isn't. All we have to do is discuss what is rational and what isn't. If it's not rational, it's not moral. If it's rational, it's moral. But it's not absolute. Yeah, that's the kicker right there. It's not absolute. Because what about humor? Humor is not rational in many cases. It might be rational in one sense. That, the object is to make people laugh. So if you look at it that way, it is rational in that it can make people laugh. And laughter is beneficial in many cases. But the subject matter a lot of times is not rational. The aims of the humor can be rational, but the subject matter and the reasons why people laugh may not be rational. The reasons why they laugh. It doesn't make any sense. So these topics are difficult to answer. But I think the easiest way to get around the idea of what is good and what is not is look at it as what is rational and what is not. because we can figure that one out. We can figure out what is rational and what is not. Much easier than trying to subjectively or arbitrarily determine what is not right and what is right. Or try to convince people that we have a revelation as to what is correct and what right and what is not. What is good and what is not good. Some sort of external influence on our brains telling us what is good and what is not good. We can figure it out for ourselves. If it's based on rationality, we can figure it out. Maybe not right away, but we can know how to proceed, because we all pretty much, by the time we're adults, know what constitutes something that makes sense or what doesn't make sense, as long as we're mentally healthy. Now that's a big caveat. Yeah. What they call a caveat. Provided that we are mentally healthy, we can figure out what's rational and what isn't. If we're not mentally healthy, we can't figure anything out. Not really. Unless it's by accident. Yeah. Anyway, I think about those kinds of things because my sons ask me the difficult questions. And the YouTubers ask me difficult questions on Flintknapping. I got to study many things to answer questions on Flintknapping, not just the obvious, but sometimes the not so obvious. Especially when it comes to ways of doing this. Which way is the way to do this? Is there a right way or a wrong way? Is there, in terms of the way they used to do it or not? A lot of people think that the right way to do it is the way they used to do it back in the day. That's the right way. Is that based on rationality? Are you using your reason, your logical thinking to figure out how they used to do it back in the day? Or are you just going by some talented people that can do it with natural materials? Are you just looking at talent, or are you looking at what is reasonable, which you figured out with your noggin, not just with your part of your brain that goes, ooh, that's so cool. That must be the way because it's cool. It must be the way because it's awesome. It must be the way because it's mesmerizing. Yeah. Some people operate that way. Must be the way because it's mesmerizing. Because a talented person is really good at that method. It must be the way they made it back in the day. Right? Makes sense, right? Someone who's good at it is good at the old ways. That makes you automatically old way good. Yeah. No. Nope. Not necessarily. Yeah, just because you're good at it doesn't mean it's old way good. The way they used to do it in the old days. If you're good at something, it just means you got a lot of practice. That's what it means. If you're good at something, that means you have a lot of practice. And a lot of times, a lot of talent. To be really good at something is talent and practice put together. There's nothing special. There's no window into the past. Just because you can knock a flake off perfectly with a piece of antler or perfectly with a piece of steel. That's not a window into the past. Just because you can do something perfectly. And of course, everybody knows that, but they ignore that. They know it, but they ignore it. They know it. But I constantly see that practice seems to be a gateway into knowledge other than the knowledge of how to do exactly what they're doing. They think the knowledge extends to other areas like the way they used to do it. I could be using fallow deer antler. Get really good at using fallow deer antler or axis deer antler. So does that mean just because I'm really good at using fallow deer antler or axis deer antler, I know how to make the tools that they used to make in the Americas? Because those types of deer are not, they don't exist in the Americas until recently. As an example. All right, let's see. And there's another side to that too, where, you know, there are animals that existed here in the Americas, like bison. Does that mean that everyone used bison horn for napping? Just because bison were everywhere? Does that mean that bison horn was used? Not necessarily. Most of what I see bison horn being used for is ceremonial headdresses. Bison horn. Ceremonial headdresses. And utensils like spoons, ladles and stuff. Horn, you know, maybe to making sounds. Horns for making sounds. Other objects that require a durable material. Maybe combs, although I don't know. Have I seen a bison horn comb? I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, you can use bison horn for napping. And just because you get good at using bison horn, does that mean that they used it? No, it doesn't. I can't say that they didn't use it. I'm saying that it doesn't mean that they did. Let's say one culture used it. Does that mean that all cultures used it that had buffalo available to them? Bison were available to them. Does that mean that they used it just because it was available? Nope. Am I ragging on bison horn? I have something against bison horn? No, that would be irrational. I'm not talking about that sort of thing. I don't care if it's being used or not. Looking at how trying to figure it out with reason can get you to how they used to do it in the old days. Yeah. Can it get you closer to how they used to do this stuff? Maybe in some cultures, maybe. But you don't know which ones. You can say that maybe some of them used it and be fairly confident that your answer is correct. Some of them. Who? Don't know. Don't know exactly. Can it be used? Well, obviously it can. So can steel. Can be used. Just because it can be used doesn't mean it was used. All right, I'll pause there and continue on the next segment. Yeah, pausing this seems to work better. I can link all these videos together and the audio is a little more synced. It syncs better when I shoot shorter segments and then splice them all together. Did I say sync them all together? I don't know. But shooting this in segments and then splicing them together seems to preserve the sound quality as far as the sync goes. Like when I'm hitting the edge, I like to be able to see that the sound is matching what I'm seeing. I like to be able to hear, I guess, that the sound is matching to what I'm seeing. No, morality. Morality based on rationality. Does that mean that if you flint knap in an irrational way that you are actually being immoral? It's not moral? If you're napping in an irrational way, is it immoral? Good question. Some people would think that, yes, off top, just as a knee-jerk reaction, so to speak, they would think, yeah, if you're not napping the right way, you're not right. You're just not right. It's disgusting. You can look at it that way. If you look at it from a true morality standpoint, morality is kind of on a spectrum where some things are slightly immoral, some things are very immoral, some things are just on the borderline. When you think of it in terms of rationality, you develop this view that it's on a spectrum, and if it's an extreme, on the extremes is when you get into trouble. You know, if you think you're not doing it right, or for a good reason, then you're being immoral. You can take it to an extreme and start persecuting people based on the fact that they're not doing it right on a moral basis because you think it makes no sense. So we have to be very careful about what we consider makes sense or not. If we're using rationality as a basis for morality, we have to be very careful about what we think makes sense or not. And that's the whole point of being rational. It takes work. It takes thought, conscious thought, to come up with what is rational, what makes sense, and what doesn't make sense. That's what's good about it. It takes thought. And a lot of the thoughts are improved with discussions. I've been listening to books that include a dialectic type arguments, right? Conversations between two philosophers. Those are interesting. Yeah. Okay. I'm at the limit of how big of a flake I can generate with this setup here. I need a bigger or a more massive or more powerful indirect percussion setup. For this stone is very tough. It would improve a lot with heat. Yeah, I'm afraid that it's going to be very steppy as I continue. That's not a good thing. So yeah, I told my son to just concentrate on rationality. It'll give you good insights into what is moral. Just don't look at the extremes, or don't look to the extremes for your answers, because the extremes are where you get into trouble. But just because something doesn't make sense doesn't make it evil. It just makes it undesirable. It can be immoral if it's taken to the extreme. It's okay to study the extreme. Don't become extreme, I guess I should say. Okay. I actually need to make some points instead of making bifaces. Maybe I'll just work on points tomorrow, bifaces today. This one is extremely difficult to knap. Yeah. I could go metal on metal. Maybe that'll help me to drive these flakes further. You know, hit the flaker with a piece of metal, with the aluminum bopper. This point's probably too small as well, but let's see. I'll take a chance since it's in the beginning stages. Yeah, that didn't help. I tried to dig out a larger flake. Didn't really work that well, or it didn't work at all. But as luck would have it, it could have been because of the concrete. I'm going to try it again on a better spot as far as material goes. Everything's the same, it's just I'm hitting with a piece of metal onto metal. That drove it okay. That drove that flake pretty far, I suppose. Just this area here is concretey. Now, can you learn the old ways by using metal No, you can't use. You can't learn the specific techniques. You can learn overall lessons like expediency, but you cannot learn actual techniques if you don't use the actual materials that they used. You're not going to figure out exactly what technique they use, but you'll have an idea, and maybe you'll stumble upon the right technique by coincidence for a particular point type or a particular culture. But you can learn overall lessons in Flintknapping from using or by using different materials than they used in the past. Flintknapping is not only about the tools. The tools are a large part, but it's not the only thing. There's certain things that I can do with steel that I can't do with antler. So chances are the technique, the way it looks, it's not going to be what they used to do. Like this abrading, this heavy abrading, I don't see this on artifacts. But I need it for this particular type of technique because it'll crush the edge when I strike if I don't. Yeah, even with this metal on metal, I still cannot drive the flakes very far without it looking weird. Yeah. So I need to take back the edge, make this more narrow. Unfortunately, if it was better material, I could preserve more of the width. So you always approach it as if it's good material, because it might be. And if it turns out it's not, then you can just switch back to making narrow points, not worrying about the width. But you start with the assumption that it's going to be good material. At least that's what I do. Assumption that it's going to be good, and you slowly adapt, change strategy. It depends on what you want to do, though, too. If you don't want something thin, you can basically use any technique or whatever. Any tool or technique, if you don't want something thin, or don't need something thin. If you don't need something thin, you can use a lot of different techniques. And you can leave it wide too. You don't have to waste a lot of material. If you're not concerned about thinness, you can preserve quite a bit of material if you're not worried about thinness. I got requests to do several different point styles. I'll get to those. In the meantime, you can do a search on my channel or on YouTube for the type of point you're looking for. Chances are I might have something related. Like someone just asked me about a paleo point that's very close to a San Patrice. Hardaway. I did a San Patrice point which is almost identical to a Hardaway. So if you watch that video on the San Patrice, you can understand how I could make a Hardaway as well. A Hardaway side notch. There's different Hardaway points. So Hardaway side notch is very similar to a San Patrice. And they do overlap in time and space. They're just called differently in Texas, I guess. Texas is weird like that. I should say the archaeologists here are weird like that. They think they're separate. It's a whole separate ball game out here. Yeah, they think it's a whole separate ball game. Yeah. Gotta name them differently because they're out here instead of over there. Doesn't make any sense. Borderline immoral. If they abuse it, they try to squash the idea that that's the same point as it is over on the other side of the borders. Yeah, you just call it differently because there's a border. You're kind of being irrational there. If you start ridiculing people for suggesting that you shouldn't be calling it that, then you're abusing the privilege. Man, I'm removing more steel than I am stone. Look at that. Didn't remove any of the stone, but the steel's there. I don't want to use the metal on metal because it can be too harsh. It can lead to problems. Like cracking. Smashing. You don't want those sort of problems. I'm going to have to hit harder, so I got to beef up the edge. So that means losing some of the edge and regrinding. But if I was trying to use antler on this or hammerstones, forget it. I'd be here all day, and then I would say, you know what? I forgot that I could just put it in the fire and heat treat it. I'm so dumb. Yeah. With natural materials, I would heat treat this first. If all I had was antler, I wouldn't be womping on it in a raw state. It doesn't make any sense. Didn't do it. It's close. Kind of close to doing it. Eventually I got to get rid of all that cortex if I want to make it look pretty. Yeah. I did like that flake, but it caused some chatter in the middle there. See? Some of you are saying, don't get that too close to me. It makes me sick. Makes me feel woozy. Get those step fractures too close to me, I start getting the restless leg syndrome and the eye twitches. Yeah. Don't do that. Yeah, I'll try not to do that too much. Try not to do the close-ups of the nasties. I know a lot of you guys are eye twitchers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How do I know that gets some people upset? I don't know. Just a wild guess. Doesn't really get them upset. They just don't want to see it. They want to see it gone. That's what they want to see. I do want to see it, but I want to see it in the process of being removed and removed. I not only want to see it removed, I want to know the process of removing it. Yeah. It's ugly. Nasty. Yeah, I don't disagree. You know, I understand. Sometimes I say I understand them, but I'm just making fun of you. Sometimes I do understand, really seriously understand. You never know which one, though. That's what keeps it interesting. Yeah. Is this guy for serious? You'll never know. No? You'll never know if I'm for serious or for reals. What am I going to do here? I'm trying to preserve width as best I can, but I'm not going to be able to. I need to get in closer to really thin this down. I'm using a lot of indirect percussion. Hopefully, I don't need to explain it because I already gave you the bass line. Previous video. I'm using the bass line a lot in this video. I make adjustments to it. Some of those adjustments I don't even know that I'm making, so I can't tell you what they are. If I don't know what I'm doing, if the subconscious is making the adjustment because of years and years of me practicing letting the subconscious do it, I'm not going to be able to tell you what the deviation from baseline is. That you're going to have to learn through practice on your own. I can't tell you what the deviation from baseline is going to be. If it's obvious, you should be able to see it on video. If it's really obvious, I might be able to tell you because it's, you know, really obvious. But if it's subtle, it could mean all the difference, and you'll have to figure that out on your own. My subtle differences might not be your required subtle difference. That's another reason why we don't know how they did it back in the day. Every napper has a different subtle difference that works for them. Some of you might say, well, it's just physics. The physics will tell you. Everyone will go down to the same scenario just because the physics are the same. Well, the physics are the same, but there are many ways to create flakes. Physics tells you that there's many ways to create flakes. It doesn't always tell you that there's the same way to make flakes. It'll tell you that there are different ways to make flakes. That's physics as well. So you can't be using physics as the excuse to rag on people and say, it's just physics, it'll all be the same way, so, you know, all obeys the same physical law, so eventually everyone will just do it the same way. No. There are different ways to produce the same kind of flake. And physics tells you that too. So there. But you won't know that because if you're just doing thought experiments, you won't know that there's various ways, very significantly different ways to make the same flake. I can make a flake a certain way, and you say to me, I can make that flake, but I use a whole different total concept and different tool and different technique. But I get the same flake that you do. There you go. It's an anecdote, yes, but it's worthwhile to listen to those anecdotes. Authoritarians hate anecdotes. Oh, they do. They hate it. Why do I say authoritarians? Why? Why just them? Doesn't everybody hate them? No, not everyone hates the anecdotes. The authoritarians hate the anecdotes because they know that one good torpedo can sink the ship. They hate it. They don't want the ship sunk. They put a lot of time and effort into building that ship. They want it to stay afloat. So they bail water out of it. They patch holes in it. They do everything to keep it afloat. That's why they hate the anecdotes, because sometimes they act like torpedoes. Oh, yes. All right. I'm going to break it up into another segment. Okay. See, this is a difficult part. I got to get right up next to it to remove it. I hoped I didn't have to, but I'm going to have to. That's real bad concrete. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Sometimes I can nap through it. I can nap through the concrete. But this particular stuff, even though it's not too bad, it's still bad enough that I got to get rid of it before I can hope to flake past it. I got to get rid of most of it. I might be able to do it now. I just continue to make attempts at napping through the concrete, taking it back little by little, building some areas by removing material, constructing these striking zones, aka platforms. But like I said in a previous video, a platform is determined after the fact. Before the fact, it could be in many different places. A platform is part of a flake. It's very difficult to define as part of the biface. Okay. All right, that was one of the hardest hits of all this time I've been spending on it. Maybe I should use metal on metal, but this can crack it, so warning, this can crack the whole thing. Metal on metal at this stage. But I'm trying to nap through concrete. That seemed to work all right. Why do I use metal on metal? Because I'm already losing a lot of energy with the concrete. If I also lose energy because I'm using a plastic mallet, it absorbs some of the shock. If I'm losing energy, I had to hit a lot harder, and I'm almost at the edge of the hardest I can possibly hit with that plastic. So I use metal on metal so I lose less energy. But sometimes it can drive too much energy into the piece. Okay. If it doesn't work, if I can't eliminate that, I got to take it all off. I got to take all this concrete off. Just got a couple more times to try to strike through it. Am I risking snapping the whole piece? Yes, I am. Would it be safer if I just took it off no matter what? Yeah, I might have done that on my own, but this option is good to learn. It's good to learn this option just in case. And I've shown people how to do it, so I got to stay up with it. I've shown people sometimes how to nap through concrete, but it's just not working in this case. But this is how you try to do it. Sometimes someone will hand me a piece and say, "Can you finish this, but leave the concrete in so I can see how you deal with the concrete?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I can do that. I can try and see." And the reason why they ask is because half their stuff has concrete in it. And if they eliminate the concrete, they get half their stuff, so they only have a quarter of their stuff. They don't want to be knapping with such a little bit of material, or they don't want to end up with such a little bit of finished product. They want to try to maximize their finished product. Yeah, I can't do anything with that. Nothing. Nothing will work. Not even trying to get it from the edges. Nothing, nothing. Why don't I take flakes in that direction? Well, in this case, there's an exception to my normal rule of using part of the edge to take an opportunity to remove mass from the other side. But in this case, I need a lot of mass in the middle to prevent breakage. Okay. I am conscious of that. I am conscious that I need mass in here so it doesn't break. Just so you know. Yep, I've got to take back that edge a lot. So much for a wide blade. If I want it thin. If I don't care, if I want it this thick, I can stop now and just sharpen one side. I took a big flake there because I needed that edge to be a little lower. One of the problems, I think, is that the edge wasn't low enough to conquer that concrete. I think maybe I was hitting too high, so I'm going to try lowering it a little more now. I guess, I don't know. Yeah. Lowering it a little bit more. It probably won't help all that much. I'm still not removing all of the concrete, in case you didn't know. I'm trying to do it little by little and minimizing the loss. Little by little. I could have stopped at any point in this process and just made a one-sided blade or something. All right, now we're starting to make progress. I am able to drive through the concrete now with just that small little layer. So that's encouraging. And yes, sometimes I sharpen up concrete if it's on the edge. Sometimes it can be sharpened. Yeah. As long as the concrete is cooperative, I can sharpen it. And it will be part of the edge. As long as it's cooperative. Should I make a corner tang? That's the easy thing right now. That would be the easy thing to do. It's already kind of in that shape. But the leaf-shaped blades sell better than the corner tangs. They're more versatile. You can make different things out of the leaf-shaped blades. And they fit into almost any collection. Almost any collection can benefit from a leaf-shaped blade being added to it. So I think that's the reason why they sell better. Or the reasons, plural. So now I'm just working on the ends now because the middle is already getting thinner. The other side of this was pretty beaten up, so switch sides on the tool to get a fresh surface of metal that grips a little bit better. Doesn't have little pieces of rock embedded into the metal. If there's metal embedded into the tool tip, it doesn't nap nearly as well. Why? I don't know. I really don't know. Seems like it wouldn't make any difference because you can use hammerstone to nap this. That's basically what it is. When you get chips of rock embedded in there, it's like having a hammerstone, I suppose. Maybe it's the inconsistency in the material. Maybe it's just got to be a pure material to work best. Maybe. Maybe. I should know for sure, right? That's not good. I should know for sure if it's better to have a pure material than it is to have an inconsistent material. Yeah. I kind of forced that step fracture in there because sometimes it'll pop out, but this time, no. This material is just too tough. So now the option is striking it with a spatula tool or trying to pick it out. That really is a difficult spot that I just got myself into. Yep. Which direction do I hit? This way or that way? That's kind of risky. I don't know. I'm going to try this way first. Just the tip here, okay? Just to be safe. I'm just going to hit the tip of that step fracture. And the reason why I say it's safe is because if I just remove a little bit of material, it's safer than we're trying to move a lot. Yeah. So it did remove some of that. Now there is a possibility of cracking the whole thing. But I think it's still okay. I think it might work if I try to hammer that. Yeah, thinking it might work and actually working are two different things. I'm going to try to pressure it out. Let's see. Lots of heavy pressure. Yeah, I can't get a good grip on it. That's smoothened out the contour. Maybe I can shoot a flake into there now from this side. That's about the only thing. That's about the only thing, and I'm starting to mumble again. I'm trying to focus. If I talk loud, I distract myself. Yeah, this is very tough material. Some of this tabular chert is tough. It's not all nice and Easy to flake. It's not the way I like it. Not yet. I need convexity. Dang, that does not look good. But it worked out. Yeah, it still isn't great, but it's a lot better than it was, I think. Maybe not. Maybe it's just hopeless. It's going to be wonky no matter what. Maybe so. I got to remove some of that. I don't have to remove it. I can leave it in. Yeah. Be a nice little attraction. Nice little distraction. Might lead to some satisfaction. Leave the cortex in. Yeah, might be worthwhile. So I'm going to do it. For now, the plan is I'm going to leave some of that cortex in there. While I try to work on this lump here. Lumpy. It's lumpy and it's probably grumpy too. Lumpy and grumpy. Grumpy because it's not going to cooperate. Next to the cortex we have some hard, very stiff, hard material. It doesn't just transition easily or abruptly. It transitions from very nasty to semi-nasty to kind of good to really good. In terms of consistency. And really good in terms of overall characteristics of knappability. It's still not all that great, even though it's tabular chert. It should be really, really good, but it doesn't want to cooperate. Nope. It does not want to. Yeah, so if you want to talk about philosophy again, and you want to know which philosophers are knowing what they're talking about, there's one secret. There's many, but there's one that you should know. And that is circular arguments. Look for circular arguments. You can't use what you're trying to prove as part of your proof. Like if you're trying to prove determinism, but you use determinism as part of that proof to prove determinism, it's a circular argument. You have to assume there isn't determinism, and then you have to prove that there is by debunking the non-determinism. And you can't debunk the non-determinism by using some sort of deterministic thought or deterministic theorem. Because that's what you're trying to prove. You're trying to prove determinism. Why do I bring up determinism all the time? Like I said, it's part of the culture nowadays. Authoritarians love determinism. They love it. Even though it's not a successful argument, they'll stick with it because they love it. It means you don't have a choice, and that's one of the cornerstones of authoritarianism. You don't get a choice. Why are you complaining you don't have a choice when you don't have a choice anyway, even in nature? That's what they would love to say, and they do say it. But they use circular arguments to make their case. All right. Let's see if that did it. Yes. Finally. Those flakes here are traveling like I'm hoping they will. Still pretty thick. Yeah, it's still in need of damage control, but I'm getting tired. It's getting late. I'm going to upload this. By the time this uploads, it'll be time for me to go to sleep. Or by the time it starts to look like it's uploading properly and that I don't have to watch it. I don't have to watch it upload. Sometimes it'll stop uploading and I have to re-upload it. So I tend to watch what the progress is on the upload. So yeah, by the time this starts to do its thing, I'll be hopefully asleep. Yeah. So it's looking much better now. Now that I've gotten down to this area where it has some nasty concrete. And I think I will be able to sharpen it. But if I make a leaf-shaped blade, a lot of that can go away, especially down here. And if I make it more narrow, I'm going to have to make it narrow here to send flakes this way to get rid of that steppage. Yeah, I can't attack it from this direction anymore. I'll have to come in from this direction. Just like I did here. I'm going to have to shoot some more flakes just like that from this side. So I'll make it more narrow as I go down, and then we'll see where I'm at. And I'll see if I'll take off that cortex. I might just leave it in there. Yep, okay, so that's it for now. All right.